All right, welcome everybody to my live show. My name is Mary Hyatt, and I am super excited that you are with me this week because we are going to be talking all about ways to celebrate and to really embrace a state of celebration in your life. As you guys know, you're on my page. I'm so just grateful that you are here. If this is your first time, welcome. I hope that you will click a little like for this page so that you get all of the updates and notifications when I do my Facebook Live, which is every single week, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Central. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a life coach. I am also a Presidential Diamond Wellness Advocate with doTERRA Essential Oils. And my whole mission in life is to help women wake up, find their voice, and become fully alive. So I'm really excited that you are here today. So let's start the show. All right. So guys, we are going to be getting into celebration. And this is something that, really is a principle for me for living fully alive. So when people come to me and they say, well, how do I live fully alive? How do I actually get into a place where I'm embracing life and experiencing at, the level that brings me joy and fulfillment? And one of those principles I always remind people of is that we have to kind of cultivate this state of celebration. And y'all, I'll be honest, this is something that I really struggle with. So I am, if you guys are familiar with the Enneagram personality profile assessment, I am a number 3, which is the achiever. And part of that personality is we are always moving from one goal to the next. So when we hit a goal, it's exciting for a hot second, and then we are off to the next thing, and we want to, start a new project or create a new goal and hit that. And so for me, my journey, kind of in becoming fully alive, this issue of celebration has been one that I've really struggled with. It's been really challenging for me. And I think that as a society too, if you think about it, as Americans, it is something that we don't do often. Like there's a few kind of classic ways that we celebrate, one being birthdays. Some people do that, a little more than others. Celebrate weddings, baby showers, maybe a job promotion. But I think the extent of that is usually like, let's go have a drink after work. There's not a lot that we really slow down to celebrate. But for me, I feel like there is so much to celebrate. But the reality is that when you're not living in this state of celebration, what happens is that you're just kind of miserable. It's that existence where it's moving from one thing to the next without much joy, without much enjoyment, and it's kind of miserable. It's that just get through it, on to the next thing. And we aren't, in this state where we're just fully engaged and celebrating life. And so there was a time, I remember it was a couple years ago, I was, you guys know a little bit of my story, hopefully, but I was really, really overweight. I was, 240 pounds. And I found this picture the other day. My mom sent me this picture of me. And, it was when I was at my heaviest. And y'all, I'll be honest, like I just started weeping when I saw this picture because I remembered how much pain I was in. I mean, it was just like, it's not the same person. You wouldn't even recognize me. I showed a couple people this past week this photo who didn't know me in that stage of life. And they're like, oh my God, like this is not even you. And it wasn't even about the weight. The weight was a symptom. It was just that look in my eyes that I was just kind of dead inside. And so when I began this journey of self-discovery and trying to really uncover and peel back the layers of what was the root cause of what was going on, I was starting to make a lot of changes in my life. I remember that I was at a yoga retreat, and I was working on shifting my diet. I was working on kind of changing the way that I was relating to food because I was definitely an emotional eater and had used that very heavily to cope. And I was drinking a ton of Diet Coke at the time. And And so for me, the one little tiny thing that I was going to work on was just to get off Diet Coke. And anybody who has ever had Diet Coke or has, is currently drinking it, it's so addictive. Like, it's one of the hardest things to actually get off. And I would get off of it for a little bit, and then I would have a Coke, a Diet Coke, and then I'd, spiral and start drinking the Diet Coke again. And then, it would just be this whole cycle of on and off and on and off. So there was a point though when I got to really kicking that addiction and not drinking it every day. Now, for most people, that's not a big deal. Like, great, you got off Diet Coke, yay. It's not that exciting. But what I realized is in that little moment, I needed to celebrate that. It was a victory for me. It was a small win, but a significant win. And when I was little, when I was younger, the only way that I was taught to celebrate, and as I'm telling the story, I want you to kind of think through the family patterns that you guys have of celebration. So what are your family patterns and habits of celebration? So in my family, from my grandmother, we had this celebration ritual that was called pick-me-ups. So if there was ever a time to celebrate something, or actually even want to avoid something that was really painful, we would treat ourselves to a pick-me-up. And that was what my grandmother called it. And every time I would go to her house, she'd say, you want to go get a pick-me-up? You want to go get a pick-me-up? And it was this little treat, usually that consisted of like an ice cream cone or a little candy. And I learned really early on that this is what celebration looked like. Like, if you're going to celebrate, celebration equals food. And fast forward into my adult life, every single time there's something that I potentially could celebrate, my first instinct is to go to food. Back when for the pick-me-up. So it's like translated into my adult life, and this kind of concept of feasting in the celebration. And then the church that I grew up in was an Eastern Orthodox church, and they were really big on feasting and all the saints' holidays, all of the major Christian holidays. There were these big, elaborate, grand feasts that centered around food and drink. And so that was really the only way that I learned how to celebrate, or that I learned that was sort of the way to celebrate. So now fast forward, okay, so in my adult life, I just hit a new rank of Presidential Diamond in doTERRA, which is, and I know that a lot of you guys aren't in doTERRA, but that is one of the main things that I do. And so for me, Presidential Diamond is a rank in the company that is a big promotion. It's like the top 1% of the entire company. There's less than 50 people that have reached this level. And so I hit that last month. And so my team worked really hard, and we had this massive win. And super exciting. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But the minute I hit it, it was like I was on to the next thing. I was like, okay, I got to do this course. I got to make this happen. I got to make that happen. And I didn't pause to celebrate. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh my God, like, I have a challenge with celebrating, with slowing down and really experiencing it. And I think that if you're somebody like me, I love to celebrate people. That's really easy for me. I'm the girl you want in your corner to throw you a birthday party, a shower. I will go all out. But when it comes to myself, I won't do anything. Like, y'all, this was like a huge, huge promotion. Huge. And I'm just kind of like, all right, like, life is normal, going on, moving on. And the crazy thing is that attitude, that behavior is 100% incongruent with my core beliefs. I really believe that we must, not that we should, but that we must celebrate. Whether that be celebrating like little victories, like getting off the Diet Coke, or, saying no to somebody who invites you to something that you feel obligated to do, and then you exercise your voice and you draw some healthy boundaries and you say no, or something huge, something large, something that is really, really big. And so, I really preach and talk about sort of celebrating life and engaging in life in a celebratory way. But too often I feel like we're in this kind of hamster wheel of life. It's like right when we get to this thing, it's on to the next, and then it's on to the next, and on to the next. And we never pause to really slow down and to celebrate. And we just end up running around in these circles, which kind of feels crazy. And my job is to help women slow down and recognize that they're alive, to recognize that there are so many incredible blessings worth celebrating on a daily basis. Life is short. Life is incredibly, incredibly precious. Life is beautiful. It's oftentimes very difficult and very hard, but we're doing it. We're rocking it. We're alive. We have 100% success rate at this thing. And we've got to celebrate. We really have to celebrate life. And so what happens when we celebrate is that it creates oxytocin in our brains. When we celebrate, when we get excited, when our blood is moving and our body is pumping and we engage our emotions, it activates that oxytocin, which is our feel-good hormone, and it creates this incredible momentum and motivation to keep going. So when we don't pause to slow down to celebrate, it wreaks havoc on our momentum. And when we can really get into this spirit of celebration, it's incredibly inspiring, not only to ourselves and our own psyche, but also to people around us. And so I want to show you this quote that I love from Oprah. She says, "The more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate. The more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate." And so the more that we can cultivate this gratitude, this state of celebration, the more we're going to have to celebrate. It's like it feeds off each other. It's like that snowball that's coming from the mountain, and it's tiny. And as it gains speed, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, it's like you're experiencing life in a completely new way. What if you could walk around in a state of celebration, in a state of really gratitude of, I am rocking out life. There's so much, even the small things, there's so much to celebrate. It changes your entire outlook on life. It changes your experience of life and really opens the door to living fully alive. And that's why it's one of my principles to live fully alive. So I want to get into the 5 different ways to start celebrating now and kind of break it down and see, okay, how can we actually really begin to celebrate in a way that is easy, and in a way that feels really, really great, and in a way, honestly, that's contagious. Because I know when I give myself permission to celebrate, it's going to give other people permission to celebrate as well. So the first way to celebrate is to be on the lookout for things to celebrate. On this journey of self-discovery, it's all about cultivating new awareness. And celebration is no different. So first, we've got to start to recognize the things that are worth celebrating. And I'm loving reading your comments. Some of you guys are saying, Cami, you said that you suck at celebrating. And you're not alone in that. If you guys feel like you suck at celebrating, virtually raise your hand and type in a number 1 in the comment section here. So if you feel like you suck at celebrating, type in a number 1, because I know that I have been there for sure. I'm definitely learning on this. And I want to know, is that something y'all struggle with? But we got to begin to recognize the things that are worth celebrating. Now, job promotions, sure. Birthdays, sure. Weddings, sure. But what about no longer being dependent on Diet Coke? Huge, worth celebrating. Or what if it was about the fact that, we finished a book that we have been meaning to read? Celebration. One of the things that my friend Nick Hendricks and I talk about a lot is oftentimes in our society and of America, all we celebrate is achievement. When you hit a new record, when you do something, it's basically only by achievement. And gosh, we miss out on so much of life when we only celebrate achievement. And so there's 3 things that we can begin to celebrate as we're looking for it that goes beyond just achievement. So it's effort, it is attitude, and it's strategy. So we can begin to praise, we can begin to celebrate our effort. As we're working on a project, we're working on shifting something about our internal psyche, our effort of saying affirmations, our effort of, adding in some self-care, our effort to, go on a 5-minute walk, in between appointments, the effort, your attitude. This is something that I celebrate in people all the time, and also myself, I love your outlook on that. I love how you have reframed that in your life. I love how you've interpreted that situation, that circumstance, really celebrating the attitude that you are bringing to life's stuff, So effort, attitude, and strategy. And so then strategy. So as you're thinking about, I really want to become fully alive. I really want to be in a place where I love my life. I love what I do. I love the relationships in my life. And I feel like I have this sense of openness. The strategy that it takes to get to that place, reading and journaling and self-care and nurturing yourself and working with a coach or whatever that looks like, offering some celebration to the strategy, because it's not about just hitting that end destination that's worth celebrating. Along the way, there are so many steps that are required to get you there, and all of those steps are what is completely worth celebrating. So celebrating that effort, that attitude, and strategy. So be on the lookout for things that you can absolutely celebrate. So that's the first way to start celebrating now. Now, the second way to start celebrating now is to make a list of the ways that you like to celebrate. So one of the issues that people have is that, okay, great, I identified something that I want to celebrate that feels important to me. And sometimes the block is, now I don't really know how to celebrate. Like for me, and maybe for you, if you've been thinking about kind of how you've been trained to celebrate, for me, the only way that I need to celebrate was through food. And as I've really grown into this style of intuitive eating, it was like, well, sometimes I don't want to eat the cake, or I don't want to go out and binge drink, or whatever that looks like. Is there another way that I can celebrate? Not that there's anything wrong with that, go for it. But sometimes I feel like there's something different that I want. So you've got to begin to make a list on how it is that you like to celebrate. And because we aren't in a celebratory culture in America, we need a little help. We need a little brainstorm session. So come up with 20 ways to celebrate any given thing. Now, this could be a celebration of a pedicure. This could be a nice meal. It could be dancing in the rain. It could be a hot bubble bath. It could be a yoga class. It could be some course online that you've been meaning to take. Whatever it is, come up with some creative ways that will make you feel like you are celebrating some of this stuff, so that when it happens, you can kind of go through that list and go, okay, which one, do I want to choose from? And so really getting to the place where how to celebrate. You have a roadmap on celebration. So when you're ready, click, you pick it, and you're able to really celebrate. And that's going to be unique to everybody. Everybody enjoys celebrating different ways. So this is kind of a fun exercise. So I encourage you to do this, even jot down a few things right now or share them in the comment section to help give us some ideas. But do this today. Do this tonight. How do I like to celebrate? And just list off a few of those things. All right, guys, the third way to celebrate is to give yourself a moment to feel the joy. Give yourself a moment to feel the joy. Even if we have something to celebrate, many times we will start psyching ourselves out and go, well, I didn't do this, or it would have been better if I did this. Like oftentimes for example, if I do a podcast episode for somebody, I get off and I'm critical of myself because I'm always wanting to improve and get better. So let's say I just finished a podcast and I instantly said, oh man, I wish that I had said this, or I really felt like that wasn't really good, or whatever. It's like, no, stop that thought process that tries to talk you out of, allowing the celebration, and slow down for a minute and give yourself that moment to really feel the joy. And this is where we have to begin to identify in our bodies, what does joy feel like? When I feel joyful, if I can kind of close my eyes, if I feel joyful, Where am I going to sense that sensation in my body? How is it going to show up? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What energy do I have? Because I want to begin to identify with the sensation, with the feeling of joy, so that when I'm celebrating, I can pause and really be in that. And so giving yourself a minute to speak to yourself almost in the way that a really encouraging teacher would speak to you. So you could say something like, good job, honey. I knew you could do it. You're so gifted. I'm so proud of you. And speak to yourself in that way. You, of course, don't have to say it out loud, but even internally, just be like, I rocked that. I'm a badass. I did it. That was awesome. And give yourself that verbal praise, because as adults, we don't often get that praise. It's kind of a sad thing, but oftentimes we have to give ourselves that praise. And we get to decide what it is that we want to celebrate. And that's not dictated by anybody or anything. We get to work on that. Hey, Dad. My dad just joined me. How fun. Okay, guys. So the fourth way to really begin to celebrate now is to bring someone along with you. This is probably my absolute favorite one, because we have to teach each other how to celebrate. And so what I talked about earlier is celebration is contagious. And so if we want to begin celebrating, we've got to sort of pull people into this process. And so one of the things that you can do after you've made your list and you've picked the thing or the way that you're going to celebrate, call up a friend, call up a family member and say, hey, I'd like to celebrate the fact that I just got off Diet Coke, or I'd like to celebrate the fact that I just reached Presidential Diamond, or the fact that I just got out my first book proposal, or that I just had my first guest podcast, or the fact that my house is clean. Whatever it is, would you help me celebrate? And instantly what happens is it gives that permission to your friend to do the same. So by doing this, you're really beginning to create a culture with your friends that allows for the time and the space to celebrate life. Especially if you are in a position of leadership on any level, this is such a great example for the people that you're leading. It gives people permission and it becomes contagious. So if you're going to start celebrating, the fourth way is to begin to bring somebody along on that journey. Now, the last and the final way to celebrate is to start small. Okay, so as we are growing and learning how to celebrate, we want this state of celebration to penetrate our entire life, right? Because staying in a state of celebration, like I said, it creates that oxytocin. It gives us that momentum. It creates motivation. It's inspiring. In every little thing, in every small thing, this is where we get to start. So stop to celebrate life. Pause to literally smell the roses. It's like it gives yourself that little tiny message that it's okay to celebrate the small things. Start by smelling the roses or smelling the flowers. Roll down your window in your car. Feel that air as it's turning to be spring. This is a great time to do this. Really slow down to enjoy that delicious cup of coffee in your morning, because we allow things to just be habit and it's just like we're getting through it, one thing. But to live a celebratory life means slowing down to be fully present and to really engage. Be in the moment. You can celebrate life just by consciously focusing on your breath, which is so fun. I do that all the time. And when you begin to be faithful to celebrate those small things, it begins to trickle out into the other areas of your life. And then you'll be ready to celebrate the big stuff when it comes along, which if we're beginning to live this life where we're fully alive, there's going to be a freaking lot to celebrate. Like, that's the truth. There's going to be a lot to celebrate. And living in this state of celebration is just like, I don't know. I just feel so expansive. I know for me, like, I know we talked about grief a couple weeks ago. And this is like, to me, the pleasure side of life. Yes, there's going to be hard times. And so, yes, there's going to be grief. Yes, there's going to be the stuff that we are working through and struggling with. But in the midst even of all of that, there is this entire life that is happening around us, that is worth celebrating, that is worth engaging in, that is worth encouraging other people to celebrate in. Right now I'm in my office and in my house, and I have these gorgeous flowers I have to show y'all. I keep looking at them because I'm like, I just love them. But, okay, let me just show you these. Ooh, y'all, I mean, are those not the most gorgeous things you've ever seen? I'm trying to show you. But I have those in my house because I want to celebrate life. I want to create little reminders that life is blooming all around me. And that's entering into a state of celebration. And so it's really, really powerful. So as you begin to walk this journey today, I want to ask you the question, what's something that you want to celebrate? Right now, today, I want to hear in your comments. I'm going to read them off. So I'm going to give you a second to do this. What is something that you want to celebrate right now? Something that happened today, something that happened yesterday, last week, last month. What is something that you want to celebrate? Again, it's that first way we have to begin to be on the lookout for things to celebrate. Then we've got to make a list of the ways that we want to celebrate. Then we've got to give ourselves a moment to feel that joy. Bring somebody along with us. And lastly, start small. Okay, Heidi, you said no sugar for 8 days. Huge accomplishment. Oh my God, Heidi, that is incredible. I tell you what, I am working on that. I'll go for a few days and I'll eat a little sugar and, but I just want to commend you. I celebrate you. That is such a huge win. Super, super exciting. You are rocking it out. Ashley, you said you got a new wellness advocate under your team. Congratulations. That's huge. And again, we can celebrate effort. We can celebrate attitude, and we can celebrate strategy. So it doesn't even have to be an achievement. It can be just a part of the process. Susan, okay, I love this. You slept all night. Woohoo! Like, that is totally worth celebrating. So how are you going to celebrate? How are you going to celebrate that? Lisa, you said that you've gone to Orange Theory classes 3 times a week for the last month. Go girl. Go girl. I bet you're feeling a lot more energy. I love it. Stephanie, you said that you want to celebrate getting better at telling the truth in terms of what I love and what I want for myself. Oh my God, I love that answer. I love that answer. Yeah, getting to the place where we can be truthful about what we desire is such a powerful process. And just get ready because you're going to experience life, I feel like, in a totally new way. I love that. Cami, you said that you're celebrating 2 new golds in Long Beach next week. So you're getting to celebrate your team. I love that. It's so awesome. So guys, you can see that there's so much right now that there is that's worth celebrating. So much. I mean, to me, every single moment in life, there's an opportunity, an invitation to slow down and to celebrate. And I encourage you to start looking for those things because, like Oprah said, the more that we celebrate, there's more to celebrate. So the more we celebrate, it gives us more opportunities, and it kind of, it enhances it and makes it bigger and bigger to where there's even more things to celebrate. It builds on itself. It's contagious in our life. And guys, I want to make sure too that if you want the recording of this video, make sure that you click the link above to get the recording. Give me 2 seconds of your time, enter in some information, and I'll send you the recording of this, plus an awesome cheat sheet on these 5 different ways to celebrate. And I'll even give you some ideas on how to begin to do that. So if you want to make sure that you get the cheat sheet and the recording of this video, click on that link above, which is going to be so fabulous. You're going to love it. But I think just ending, as we're thinking about this celebratory life, it's all about what you choose to focus on. Yes, there's a lot of hardship. I shared a lot of my journey the last time I was on here about that. Yes, there is so much that is going to scream for our attention, and reasons when we feel kind of embarrassed or silly for celebrating small things. But this is where you get to ask yourself, what quality of life do I want to have? What quality of life do I want to have? If you want to have a life that feels open and expansive and where you can look at the flowers next to you or the budding tree outside and celebrate life and celebrate the fact that you got up this morning, that you're breathing, celebrate the fact that you get to talk to people about whatever it is that's on your mind, and somebody's going to hear you and relate to you and listen to you. Whatever it is, maybe it's celebrating the fact that, you've been able to get out of bed and go walk for 10 minutes, the past couple days. You haven't done that before. Or the fact that you can see spring around the corner. What quality of life do you want to have? If you really want to stay in this celebratory state, it requires a little skill. It requires a little practice so that you begin to, celebrate the small things to where you can celebrate the big things. And I commit to celebrate Presidential Diamond. Absolutely, 100%. I just told my boyfriend Bentley, I said, baby, we're going to go on a weekend vacation somewhere. We're going to celebrate this big, even though I'm kind of like on to the next thing and I want to create this course and I want to do all this other stuff. It's so important to slow down and celebrate. So I commit to you to do that. But guys, thank you so much for being on with me today and for talking about celebration. It's been so fun getting to hang out with you this week. I will see you next week. If you guys have any suggestions on topics or ideas of things that you would like for me to talk about, just leave it in the comments below. And I would be happy to totally look at that and create some content around it. So guys, thank you so much. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.